Wanda from Love and Marriage Huntsville has once again stirred up conversations, and this time it looks like she is more upset than ever. She recently went live on her platform, and from what was said, it is very clear that she has a lot of emotions building up inside. On the surface, she is lashing out at the blogger Caramel Ree, but if you really listen to her words and the way she expressed herself, it becomes clear that her real frustration is directed at Nell Fletcher. Wanda has a way of projecting her feelings, and instead of calling out Nell directly, she decided to take her anger out on someone else who was simply doing commentary about the show. This is where things get interesting, because when you watch Wanda closely, you can see that she is a woman who does not separate criticism of her daughter Tisha from criticism of herself. To Wanda, the two are the same. If anyone questions Tisha, then in her mind they are also questioning her as a mother. This is why she jumps into arguments so quickly and becomes very defensive. Over time, this has created a pattern that fans of the show recognize all too well. She goes into battle whenever she feels Tisha is under attack, but this time she did not aim directly at Nell, even though it seems like Nell was the real reason for her anger. Instead, she directed her words toward a blogger, creating an even bigger scene. And now, if we take a step back and look at the situation, we see that Wanda was watching commentary by Caramel Ree. In that commentary, Caramel was speaking about Letitia being called out for not being transparent on the show. This is not a new subject, because for several seasons now people have debated whether or not Tisha is open about her marriage and personal life. Caramel simply pointed out what was already being discussed, such as past rumors about Marceau, including the well-known Atlanta situation and the conversations about where he was and who he was with. These are things that have played out in front of the cameras, so it's not like Caramel made them up out of thin air, but Wanda didn't take it that way. She heard Caramel bringing up those topics, and instead of accepting that it was commentary based on the show, she got defensive. In her mind, this wasn't just about the show anymore. It was personal. She seemed to take the entire commentary as an insult aimed at her family, and this is when she began speaking out aggressively. What stood out most is that while she was tearing into Caramel, her words kept circling back to things that seemed triggered by Nell Fletcher. That is why it feels like she is misdirecting her emotions. It is important to note that Nell has been vocal recently. She appeared on Carlos King's platform where she was open about transparency in her marriage. Nell admitted that infidelity had taken place in her relationship with Chris, but she also explained that they chose to confront it openly instead of hiding it. She said that no one wants to talk about cheating, but for them, it was part of their reality, and by talking about it, they were able to move forward and heal. This kind of honesty is rare on reality TV, and many people felt like Nell and Chris showed courage by putting it out there for Wanda and Tisha. However, hearing Nell be so open seems to have touched a nerve. From the outside, it almost looks like jealousy mixed with discomfort. While Nell is praised for her transparency, Tisha continues to face criticism for not being as open about her marriage. Fans of the show often point out the way Tisha phrases things when asked about Marceau. Instead of clearly denying cheating rumors, she says things like, "I have never experienced being cheated on." That type of wording feels indirect, and it leaves the door open for people to keep asking questions. Compare that with Nell, who just lays it out, and you can see why the contrast is so sharp. This difference has become a sore spot for Wanda. She wants to protect her daughter at all costs, but in doing so, she ends up making situations more heated. During her live, she went on long rants, raising her voice, using harsh words, and insisting that people stop putting her son-in-law's name in their mouths. At one point, she even contradicted herself by saying she doesn't even like Marceau, but in the same breath defended him against cheating accusations. That contradiction shows how tangled up her emotions are. On one hand, she may not personally get along with Marceau, but on the other hand, she does not want anyone to publicly embarrass her daughter by calling him unfaithful. Another fascinating layer is how Wanda connects Tisha's struggles on the show to her own pride. She takes it personally when people question Tisha's choices or Tisha's honesty. It is almost as if she feels people are saying she didn't raise her daughter well or didn't teach her how to be strong. This mindset explains why Wanda gets so fiery and refuses to let things slide. To her, defending Tisha is defending herself, and she doesn't separate the two. In her live, Wanda replayed some of Caramel's commentary and interrupted it constantly with her own responses. She shouted things like, "Get the hell out of here," and "Don't play with me." It was aggressive, and it showed that she was deeply offended. But once again, the subject of Nell Fletcher kept popping up in the conversation. When Caramel included a clip of Nell speaking about infidelity on Carlos King's show, Wanda seemed to take it as a direct attack on Tisha. Instead of recognizing that Nell was simply sharing her own story, Wanda turned it into a competition about transparency. She seemed bothered that Nell was being seen as brave and honest, while her daughter was being criticized. From there, Wanda continued to go off, even dragging Melody's name into it, though Melody wasn't really the focus of the conversation. That is another pattern Wanda has. She tends to bring up Melody whenever she feels her daughter is being compared unfavorably. She insists people leave Melody's name out of things, but ironically, she is often the one bringing her up first. It's a cycle that fans notice quickly throughout the live. Wanda also made mistakes and misspoke, such as mispronouncing the word Buick. She repeated it several times incorrectly, and that moment added a mix of humor and sadness because it highlighted how worked up she was. Instead of focusing on clarity, she was caught up in emotion, and it came out in her speech. The heart of this entire situation comes down to transparency and pride. Tisha has been questioned for years about whether she is honest about her marriage. She avoids direct statements, which leads to speculation. Nell, on the other hand, was willing to admit past problems and address them head-on, and that difference has set the two women apart in the eyes of viewers. Wanda sees this, and instead of calmly helping her daughter handle it, she lashes out at anyone who brings it up. In this case, Caramel Ree was simply the messenger, but Wanda turned her into the target. It raises the question of whether Wanda will ever directly confront Nell. Right now, it seems like she doesn't want to. Maybe she feels Nell is too composed and would not engage in a shouting match, which is Wanda's preferred style of defense. Nell showed with Lexi that she can choose to not entertain arguments, so Wanda may feel it is easier to attack a blogger instead. But if the issue keeps growing, it is possible that this tension could spill over into the reunion or into future episodes of the show. Imagine a reunion where Wanda and Nell are face to face. That would be a dramatic moment, because Wanda would finally have to direct her words toward the person she is truly upset with. Nell has proven that she can stay calm and stand by her truth, so if that happens, it could expose just how much of Wanda's anger comes from pride and insecurity rather than actual wrongdoing. Until then, Wanda continues to fight battles online. She pushes viewers to support Tisha's platforms, encouraging people to subscribe and follow. She sees this as a way of lifting her daughter up against the criticism. But in doing so, she keeps creating more attention around the very issues she wants people to ignore. The more she rants, the more people notice, and the cycle continues. When you break down everything Wanda said in that live, it is clear that she feels threatened by the narrative forming around Nell and Chris Fletcher. She doesn't want people to say the Fletchers are more real or more transparent than her daughter and son-in-law. She sees that as an insult, and she is determined to push back against it. Unfortunately, her way of pushing back often does more harm than good, because it keeps the conversation alive instead of quieting it. The bigger picture here is about how reality TV affects people personally. For Nell and Chris, choosing to talk about their past mistakes made them look relatable and honest. For Tisha and Wanda, choosing not to be open has made them targets for constant speculation. That difference plays out every time the subject of transparency comes up, and it pushes Wanda into defensive mode. Fans are now wondering how this will play out moving forward. Will Tisha ever choose to be more direct about her marriage? Will Wanda ever stop seeing criticism as a personal attack? And will Nell eventually address Wanda if she keeps throwing indirect shots? These are questions that hang over the show and keep viewers invested. For now, what we know is this: Wanda is angry, but her anger is not fully aimed where it belongs. She is really upset with Nell Fletcher, but she took it out on Caramel Ree. This misdirected energy has created another layer of drama for the show, and it keeps people talking.